Okay, hello. This is a special commentary track for Back to the Future Part 2 from the Obsessive Viewer podcast. My name is Matt, and I'm here with Mike.
Hey,
Mike.
everybody.
Hey.
Hey.
So basically, in honor of Back to the Future Day, which is, as of this recording, it's next week, but on October 21st, 2015, it's the day that Marty McFly travels to 2015 in Back to the Future Part 2. So as something fun for our listeners, we figured that we would go ahead and record this commentary track and you know, give people something to listen to while watching it.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and before we get started, there may be a chance that Mike might drop out of the conversation, and then I'll recall him on Skype, and it'll be hopefully seamless, but just as a precaution. So, okay, I'm watching it on the Blu-ray. I'm watching the Blu-ray of it, and Mike, you're on. Okay. Oh, are you? Nice.
Well, I'm watching the Blu-ray version of it. I'm watching it on my iPad, the digital copy that came with the Blu-ray set.
There you go. So load up your Blu-ray for Back to the Future Part 2, and then once you start to see the old Universal logo coming on, that's where I'm at now, and I'm going to press play at the count of 3 and on go. So 1, 2, 3, go. And we're off.
Cool.
So now I'm seeing the Universal logo, an MCA company, and it's still on screen. And now it's black. And now we're at Steven Spielberg Presents. And we're off and running.
Awesome.
So, yes. So
we should start. You know what this reminds me of, Matt, is queuing it up at the same time.
Me too.
Know, immediately, right?
Oh yeah.
It reminds me. Yeah, our freshman year at college, we synced up the finale of Friends.
Yeah.
In our room, and we couldn't get it exactly right, so it just kind of sounded like there was an echo.
Yeah. Which, it was an interesting experience. That was an interesting experiment. I'm so surprised that we never really did that with something as iconic to us as Back to the Future.
Yeah. Speaking of, we should talk about the movie.
Yeah.
So everybody knows, if you haven't seen this movie, I think it would be weird if you listened to it with us and watched it with us first. So go watch it and then maybe come back later.
Right. And I'm
obviously, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I'm hoping that what we can do is we can do this without having to like call attention to exactly what's on screen. So like if people want to listen to it as if it's a podcast, they're more than welcome to do that.
Sure.
Hey, look, there's Mr. Fusion.
Not to. Except that we have to talk about the opening scene here, right?
Oh yeah. And so go ahead.
As everybody knows, the first movie ended, after the denouement. Doc comes back and reveals that he's back from the future to tell Marty and Jennifer that their kids are troublemakers in the future. His son is a problem in the future, and so they have to go. And so what they did here in the second movie is they essentially refilmed that whole sequence. They kind of chopped a few parts together, but it's generally the same thing filmed twice.
4 years later.
Seamless. 4 years later. It's almost seamless. It's hard to tell. So to that I say two things. The first one, and Matt, I'm asking you, and that's the easy question: Claudia Wells or Elizabeth Shue?
That's hard to say. It's funny. I watched this movie at a young enough age to where I didn't really even catch it. I didn't even really notice.
I didn't notice for a long time.
Yeah, and she doesn't really have much to do. It's Elizabeth Shue in this one, right?
Yes.
Yeah, of course it is. And she doesn't really have that much going on in this movie.
Yeah.
So.
She's definitely. They find a way to dispatch writing for her.
Right.
Quite early in the movie.
And we just saw the DeLorean lift off. How do you feel that the special effects hold up now? Because it's a little bit dodgy, but.
It is, but it's still so special, I think.
Yeah. It kind of adds to the iconography of it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's so much going on there that, like, there's so much to see that I'm not really distracted by the effects. I mean, it's just so colorful and so fun. So the other thing is, and this is kind of a major problem I have with the movie, and I hate to start us off on a bad foot, because I really do love this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Does the premise bother you as much as it bothers me?
Dean Cundy? Wait, sorry. Dean Cundy was the DP on this?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't he also do Halloween?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting. Anyway, so what was the question again?
Well, the question is, does the premise of this movie bother you the same way it bothers me? And by that I mean, they have literally all the time in the world. As of this movie, they have 30 years to stop their kids from having trouble, but they have to go to the future. Does that bother you?
You know, and I can kind of use that to kind of leapfrog into just a broad talk about the time travel conceit in film. Hey, there's the date, October 21st. And I just said that we're not going to call attention to stuff on screen. I'm sorry. But when you think about the conceit of time travel and how you're in a time machine and you literally have as much time as you need or as much time as you want, like, I don't know. I kind of feel like if they were to go, I don't know, maybe this is, what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe this is apologizing for it a bit, but I feel like if they get close enough to the events, they run shorter of a risk of changing stuff in a bigger way. So yeah. like if they have 30 years before they, need to prevent this from happening, but they go back 15 years and do something, then they don't know what the outcome of that in 5-year math, and however much time and 15 years or whatever there will be.
No, and I see your point, and for me, the rest of the movie really, I don't want to call it seamless, but it's pretty tight, if you ask me. It's almost as clever as the last one to kind of see not to kind of spoil what we're about to see, but to go to the alternate 1985 and to have to go back to the past to fix it, which is something that was never done in a movie before.
Right.
That stuff is so awesome, but it's just a strange way to start this movie on, a movie that is so careful. I think the first one was so careful with time travel that they just did what they did with this one. It's problematic. I have to think about putting it to the back of my mind every time I watch this movie.
Well, I think that's more due to the fact that when they thought of the ending for the first one, they didn't think of it with the intention of it being a sequel or anything.
Right, absolutely. It's a joke.
So I think that they kind of wrote themselves in a corner, in a pretty big corner actually, because of well, that said, that it's kind of an indictment of the first movie too. It's kind of a sloppy ending to the first movie, really. Kind of, but I think it kind of.
I just noticed that Fusion Industries is on that dumpster, that building where they just parked.
Huh? I didn't notice that. I didn't catch that. I did notice, or one thing that I always notice. Or to go back to the point of the ending of the first movie, I feel like that kind of just that kind of leaves on. I don't find that problematic of that movie at all. I think it's just that it's kind of a it's in tune with the adventurous spirit of the movie. I guess it leaves on such a nice adventurous moment. Like they're going to have more adventures. So even if they didn't have a sequel, then it would be a good standalone movie.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah. So
go ahead.
Oh, so how did you feel about the depiction of 2015 when you first saw this movie compared to your life now as someone in 2015?
Yeah, I was just gonna point it out. We're about to see. Are you releasing this on the 21st?
Yes.
We are about to see today depicted in a movie.
Right.
And that kind of hit me a couple days ago that, people are making a big deal out of seeing it. And I love the movie, of course. Back to the Future is my favorite movie. I've said on the podcast before. But It never really seemed all that important to me to kind of see it on the 21st.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that I would because it's kind of what you do, and as a fan, it's what you would do. But to think this is today, this is a depiction of this day, is a very strange, odd, disorienting feeling, I think.
It's very strange. Oh yeah.
Yeah. But as far as when I was a kid, I gotta say, and I might have said this before, so if you're a longtime listener, I apologize, but I've got to say that I think that I've seen Back to the Future 2 more than any of the other ones.
Interesting.
An uncle of mine used to kind of double dub movies for us and kind of make copies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I mentioned this. And so this is one of the movies I like to call a babysitter movie.
Mm-hmm.
When if I had a babysitter or my parents didn't want to watch me, they would just put on a movie. And so this was a movie we watched just kind of, in rotation a couple times a day, certainly a couple times a week. But
nice.
To answer your question, the first time I saw it was probably shortly after it came out, so I was maybe 5. And the first thing I remember, the most specific thing I remember, and I'll try not to talk about it too much because this is not a sports podcast, is that they depict that the Cubs have won the World Series.
Did you notice that when Marty picks up the newspaper, that's the first shot of that, is that in the left corner it says Cubs sweep series?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. And I love that. It's special to me. I grew up in Chicago. I've been a Cubs fan my entire life. The Cubs, last time they won the World Series is in 1908. What's so special about it is that people have been talking about this year for the last couple of years with regards to the Cubs. And so they have not been great the last couple of years, but they, as of Wednesday night, moved on to the National League Championship Series, so they are 4 games from going to the World Series. So it's pretty incredible.
Yeah. That is pretty incredible.
It's so awesome, and I just kind of want the other teams to lay down and just give it to the Cubs.
Yeah, I would I'm not a sports person at all. I'm not a baseball person, but I feel like I'd be rooting for them if only because I want Back to the Future to in some way be prescient, I guess.
Mm-hmm. By the way, so as he's walking into Hill Valley and it does the same establishing shot of the village, the town that it does in the first movie, he almost gets hit by that car. It's a pretty close reenactment of the first movie, right?
Right.
I love that.
Yeah. So we're getting just inundated in this scene with just tons of future tech, really none of which has really ever has come to fruition. But I do love that the Jaws
Robots
19,
the Texaco.
Yeah, and then the Jaws 19 hologram. It's like what is it? Like, yeah, that's 3D is such a piece of current day fad, I guess, in movies. Yeah. I hope, at least. I'm still don't think I'll ever be sold on 3D, but
I'm definitely not. I think the Goldie Wilson the third thing is a bit of a stretch. That's kind of an attempt to just get another reference in there.
That's
a little much,
and it's redundant.
It's have the Bushes winning all the time,
right? That's true. But it's redundant because I think, if I'm not mistaken, that Goldie Wilson the third was the car salesman guy. But so like, okay, I guess it's not redundant, but and then he passes by before a poster for re-elect Goldie Wilson Jr. So we get 2 generations of Wilson future in that establishing shot of 2015. So it's just kind of, I don't know, it's a little redundant to have Mary Goldie Wilson or Goldie Wilson the third or whatever be on that screen so soon after establishing the re-elect Goldie Wilson Jr.
Yeah.
So Cafe 80s.
Cafe 80s is a strange thing. I don't think we're all that nostalgic about the 80s. I think we're mostly embarrassed by the 80s.
Yeah.
So this kind of stuff doesn't exist. And also, diners don't kind of stay diners and evolve. I think they overestimated the idea of a diner continuing to be successful.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's such an exact replica, or at least the set design of it is such a replica of the one in the 50s that it's kind of, it adds another layer of unbelievability, I guess, or disbelief to it. But I mean, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you can say.
Oh, I was just gonna say, but then again, this entire sequence is just to reestablish or call back. It's a series of callbacks for his entrance in the first one. So,
right. So something interesting about this scene, and really all the 2015 stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so to analyze it, if we think about what people in 1987, 88 thought that people in 2015 would look like, I love the idea that they imagine it as this really radical, very colorful. People are all kinds of mismatched colors, and it's kind of like the return of neon. And so one of the things I've thought about a lot with some of my friends is like what the identity of the 2010s is, right? Like what is the style? Like we know what the style of the 80s was, right? We can pinpoint that immediately.
Right.
We know what the style of the 90s was. We can pinpoint that. I would argue we can even kind of pinpoint what the 2000s is like. But when I think about the 2010s, is it like kind of it's kind of a hipster minimalist type of era, right?
Yeah, totally.
And so people kind of have that haircut that's kind of it's like the gentleman's haircut that's kind of faded the sides and combed over, which is very evocative of like the 60s or, interestingly enough, even the 50s.
Huh.
Right?
Right?
People have the haircut today that George McFly had in 1955 in the first movie, right?
That's true, yeah.
And so, you know, people think back to the 80s and they're like, oh man, they looked ridiculous. People think back to the 90s and they're like, oh man, they looked ridiculous. Even the 70s, oh man, they looked ridiculous. But nobody looks back on the 60s and the 50s and said, oh, those people looked stupid. It's all, oh, those people looked really sharp. And so my point is, in the 80s, when everybody looked radical and everybody looked so stupid in the 80s, of course they would think people in 2015 would look more stupid.
Holy crap. Yeah, that's yeah, I think you're right on the money. That's amazing.
Thank you. Rather than this kind of, you know, we've gone back to like a cleaner look, a more professional look, a nicer look. It's so interesting to me that if this actually was 2015, it would look more like 1985 or look more like 1955 than 1985.
Yeah, absolutely. That's spot on. I totally agree. And it's funny. I think it's a reflection of them not being, people in the 80s not being, self-aware.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. That's an interesting angle. I never considered that, when thinking about the fashion. I just thought that people just imagined future to be just overindulgence and things and trying to go for like you said with the mismatched colors and all that and kind of vibrancy of fashion in the future. I just felt like maybe that was just people's depiction of the future as just being overindulgent and yeah. I had a word keyed up, but it dropped out. But
so here is a character trait of Marty that was not necessarily there in the first place, but they definitely put in here to kind of pay off later. The nobody calls me chicken thing.
Yeah. How did you feel about that adding to it? I was kind of surprised going when I first saw the whole trilogy outright, because I'd seen like clips of the third one. I remember one of my memories of the trilogy being the whole aspect of him being called a chicken, and I think the first time I ever saw the first one all the way through, I was surprised that it wasn't a part of the character. How did you feel about them adding that in for the sequels?
Well, I acknowledged, or I realized that they were just in the sequels around the same time that I realized that the sequels were filmed at the same time, and they kind of they're complementary, and I think are quite different from the original. I for a long time loved the series and touted the series as the greatest series ever, but I've kind of since gone back on that. I know I keep dogging on this movie. I really do love this movie. But now if I'm talking about my favorite movie, it's really just Back to the Future.
Right.
But, it's, it makes sense that I think that type of personality trait is in Marty in the first one. Not that he says it explicitly, but he's kind of cocksure and he's willing to fly off the handle and stuff like that. So I can imagine that the nobody calls me chicken, somebody calling him chicken would bother him a little bit, but it is an obvious setup for a payoff later on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like it's probably for the best that they added this for the sequels, because if you think about it, in the first movie, a big part of his character arc is that he's not really that confident, I guess, or not really that sure of himself, really.
Right.
And I feel like the alternative to inventing this character trait for the sequels, specifically for the sequels, the alternative to that would be to revisit that lack of confidence and kind of expand it for the sequels. And I feel like if they were to do that, then it would be it would have been detrimental to the memory of the first movie, because it would have just been retreading old territory
For sure.
Yeah, and undoing really strong character growth.
I agree.
Yeah. In this scene where they crash into the town hall, always, first of all, the wire work is just egregiously not bad, but it's really out there. Like they're clearly like just being propelled from wires. It's not really that clear cut. But
the story from the set is the stunt coordinator, the lead stunt person, was severely injured in that stunt.
Oh, really?
Life altering injured. Yeah.
Holy crap! I didn't know that.
Just didn't work out exactly the way it was, and legend has it you can kind of see the woman hit the column close to us if you're looking for it.
Huh. And the clock tower has never been fixed, and actually there's the ledge where Doc falls down, or in the first one, is missing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. There you go. Cool. Cubs win.
Very cool. Yeah. Except that they're the team from Miami in real life is not the Alligators. It's the Marlins. And the Marlins are also in the National League. But I'll take it.
Yeah. So it's
put the money on the Cubbies.
So the Sports Almanac, this was a kind of not necessarily a point of contention for me, but for one thing, I always thought, well, sort of. I mean, kind of. I don't know. On one hand, it's like I love it as a prop, like something about how the texture looks on it, and the way that they handle it is just, I don't know. It's such a weird feeling.
I believe it's real for sure, if that's what you're getting at. Like, I believe that there are pages and statistics in there.
Right, but that's the thing. Like, it seems a little small to hold that much, that many statistics.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah, and that's nitpicking at best. And I mean, if they were to have like an actual, like, large thing, it would lose that kind of the pleasantness of the texture on screen that the prop has in the movie.
There was a what was it? I'm going to say ESPN, but I'm sure somebody else put it out, so I apologize for my lack of journalistic integrity. But somebody posted a sports almanac for the next 30 years that predicted other events, and it was the Cubs winning the series a couple of other times.
Nice.
Cubs sweep the series in 5.
Huh.
I mean, it's a best of 9 in the future.
Would that be the case?
I mean, if they sweep it in 5 games, that means
sweep it, so they would have to win each one, right?
5 in a row. Yep.
Huh.
Marshall runs 3-minute mile.
Did you notice the USA Today camera that's kind of there? Don't they use that type of technology for sports and stuff? Like kind of a freestanding camera, or am I imagining that?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh.
What I would give to have a pair of those sneakers, and I know obviously they have those now. They don't self-lace.
Oh, that's lame.
But they have made versions of that shoe, and I think it's awesome.
That's cool though. They also have Pepsi Perfect.
They do.
Yeah. The style of clothing. What is it? The fitting, or with the auto dry?
Yeah, it auto dries and the sleeves self adjust.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. And of course, Jennifer just, is getting taken away. That's such a plot convenient device.
Yeah, I didn't want to go as far as saying contrivance, but we need to do something about Jennifer, so they do.
Right.
So I believe that Hill Valley is real, but how much does this alley look like a set?
It really does. Now that you mention it really does. I do love the entire Hill Valley set, though.
Yeah, so
it just
all 3 years.
Yeah, it looks so picturesque, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And just gorgeous. I think it's funny that the cop says that she hopes she looks this good when she's 47, or I think it was 47. And that's it's funny because when you think about it in context of present day, it's kind of funny because, I mean, looks are really important and for people today, and like there's such a stigma, I guess, about like plastic surgery and everything like that. You would think that they would. I don't know if that's. I don't know. It's just interesting to me that they would make that comment, but interesting from the perspective of someone in the 2015.
Yeah, one thing that we didn't mention was Doc's facelift.
Yeah,
and how he wore a mask. The first several times I saw it, I didn't get it. I thought it was a weird visual gag. I mean, it is a weird visual gag.
Yeah,
but I thought I thought it was absolutely nothing. But the fact is, they put the makeup. The idea is, when they filmed the first movie, they put makeup on him for the 1985 version of Doc. Right?
Mm-hmm.
They aged him slightly.
Right.
And so, since he's in this movie and they didn't want to have to put makeup on him every day, they decided to give him a facelift and make him look more like he looked in the 1955 version. So he actually does look a little more aged in the beginning of this movie, and then he peels that off and he looks like the 1955 version.
Right. That's an interesting corner cutting measure, I guess.
Yeah. But paid off with a fun visual gag, I think.
Yeah. Oh, totally. It totally landed. I want to mention that I want to talk about the TVs, but the use of biometrics to enter and doors and everything. I feel like that's one of the main things in terms of future depictions. There's there's such an emphasis put on that, and I feel like that's something that's not really happening.
Oh, you don't think so?
Not for
right,
like
you're right. It hasn't happened. It hasn't happened.
Not to this level.
Apple did it the most with their thumbprint recognition.
Right.
But yeah, you're right. It hasn't been done.
Yeah, not to this level. And that's Michael J. Fox, right?
It is.
Yeah.
And it kind of grosses me out a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. And we should also definitely talk about the whole ordeal with Crispin Glover.
It is, and it is. It's an ordeal is the way to put it. So, this man's name, the guy who's hanging upside down, the actor's name is Jeffrey Wiseman.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the story goes. Well, there's several stories. You know, the studio says that he kept wanting as much money as Michael J. Fox, and they wouldn't give it to him. And but he says he doesn't like the way the first one ended, and kind of was just like no all along.
Right. There's conflicting. There's not a really clear story about what it is, but
it is, yeah. And so I think for the sake of again journalistic integrity here, I think we should stick to maybe this performance and how we feel about it rather than conjecture and speculation.
Yeah.
So if you want to know the sides of the story, there's a great book that I read. It's called We Don't Need Roads, The Making of Back to the Future Trilogy by Cassine Gaines.
Oh, nice.
And it kind of goes, I read it over the summer in like 2 days. It was amazing. And it kind of goes over both sides as in-depth as possible. There are several interviews with Crispin Glover. There are no interviews that I know of Robert Zemeckis talking about the subject. So if you want to know, you can look that stuff up. But to go back to Jeffrey Wiseman, they kind of found him. He was kind of a really small character actor. He was in a couple of things. And they got him in. And do you know how they did his makeup?
No. Was it from a mold of Crispin Glover's face or something like that?
Yes. They took a mold of Crispin Glover's face to age him, right, in 1985. And they used that mold to create prosthetics to give to Jeffrey Wiseman. So it's weird looking. It's especially weird looking in the 1955 scenes.
Yeah. Or 2015? Or... Oh yeah, 1955. I got you.
Yeah, that stuff is actually refilmed. Like when he punches death, that's refilmed stuff.
Yeah, it's funny, or it's interesting because that actually led to Crispin Glover suing, and because of that, I believe he won the lawsuit, and it got like rules changed in the Screen Actors Guild.
Right. Which is weird, just excessive. Just excessive.
Excessive for him to...
On his part.
Really? You think so?
To get litigious about the fact that they took molds and then used molds to make shot... I mean, it's not even about the character. Like, they owned the character. He had no rights to that character.
Sure.
And
well, yeah.
I don't know. It just seems... I mean, legally speaking, I suppose I get it. I just don't like the curmudgeon-y perspective there.
I can agree with you there. I can see your point, but I think that there is definitely something to be said about them using Crispin Glover's likeness to such an extent where they actually cover the face of another actor in a certain with prosthetics to make him look like the previous actor. I mean, it would be one thing to completely recast, and also it's he's clearly doing the George McFly affectation that
for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, and maybe that's not that big of a deal. Just because anyone recasting or taking on a role is going to have their own input to it, but it's still going to be something in line with the original performance to at least some extent. And, but I mean, that's like a clearly emulating the previous actor's performance because they couldn't get the previous actor.
Yeah. Here's the thing that I wish we had.
The hydrator?
Decker hydrator.
Yeah. And look how beautiful that looks.
Oh, that pizza.
So
it also looks cardboard as hell.
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah. But it looks delicious.
Fake dry ice came off the top of it or something, because that is not hot pizza.
Right.
When Crispin Glover first came out, or when Jeffrey Wiseman first came out wearing the Crispin Glover makeup, the first thing that Leah Thompson said was, oh, Crispin's not going to like this. And so Leah Thompson and Jeffrey Wiseman apparently did not get along well on the set. Not that they butted heads, but there was, she had a rapport with Crispin, and it just, it's just odd.
Did you hear her episode of Nerdist?
Yes, I did. Gosh, she was a treat. She
seems like such a sweetheart.
Yeah.
Sure. That was a good episode.
For sure.
So, it being 2015, Mike, do you wear two ties to work?
Not in one day.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't either, but yeah. I do like how Marty's ties, like they're separate, but I mean, is it supposed to be one tie, just with two knots, or what? But
I don't know. It even has the button in the middle, which is weird.
Yeah, but he
is with the "Nobody Calls Me Chicken" again.
Right.
By the way, Needles, played by Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers.
He's also going to be in part 3, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So they have both screens, and then also they have window television screens.
Yeah, which I really like.
I do too. I think that's a nice commentary, whether intentional or not. It's kind of an interesting subtext to the movie in that we're so involved with TVs, we're not looking outside, so might as well cover the windows with screens. That's something you don't really get that kind of subtext in Back to the Future.
Yeah. Fax machines.
Yeah. that's just adorable.
No. Oops. Not quite.
Swing and a miss.
And the Van Gogh on the screen. Were fax machines new in 1985? Please enlighten me. Not really, right?
I want to say that they were pretty popular in the early 80s, maybe. Okay. But I mean, even by 1985, I would think. Well, I don't know. Maybe they were, because I know that they were pretty prevalent in the 90s.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can see that. If anything, we kind of deride the movie for using fax machines, but I do like how optimistic they were about the speed of the printing.
Yeah.
So they've got that going for it.
Now, Elizabeth Shue's hair.
Yeah.
How do you feel about fainting in movies?
I was going to bring that up, actually. Not a fan.
I hate it. I hate it.
It's so weird. And it's kind of intrinsically tied with damsels in distress.
Uh-huh.
And just really anytime I see it after a certain point in cinema history, like in this movie, it's like, I just can't buy it. I just can't buy it that something would be. I mean, in this scenario, sure, it might be a little bit appropriate that you have such a shock of seeing yourself that you pass out. But it's also like anytime you see someone pass out because the sight of blood, because the plot necessitates them passing out, I have a hard time buying into it.
I don't know anybody who's ever fainted.
Me neither. I almost blacked out once because I was on Vicodin after having my gallbladder taken out, and I tried to get up and go to the bathroom, but
Wow.
I never blacked out. I didn't. That was me almost blacking out.
So this movie, so they're leaving. So that's it. We just got the entire October 21st, 2015 experience. How do you feel?
It was
Does that look like today?
It looked like it's going to be a good day.
We'll see. It's going to be the same.
Yeah.
The Cubs play on that day. Actually, they can't win by then. But
yeah. Well, good luck to the Cubs. I do want to mention that I think that part of the trivia for the detail of the cars in 2015 in this movie was that they used concept cars, and they kind of they used concept cars. I think that really helped sell it. Like, I mean, if certain aspects of it were kind of cheesy and a little silly and everything, but I think this showing the cars, the style of cars was pretty much on point. Not necessarily accurate, but it was a very, it sold me on it being the future, basically.
Oh, for sure. That looks futuristic.
Oh yeah.
And so we're getting rid of Jennifer for the rest of the movie.
Right.
You know, what's funny about this one is, when there's bars on the windows. Anyway, when I remember this movie, and when people remember this movie, especially when I talk to young people, and I talk to young people every day, obviously,
right.
And I talk about Back to the Future, and I say Back to the Future 2, and they're like, oh, when's the one where they go to the future, where it takes place in the future? Like, well, that's Back to the Future 2, but, all this business we're making out of the fact that it's October 21st, and the second one is the future one, they really only spend a third of the movie in the future. Yeah,
it's really interesting, because you're right, and it's interesting how the story is broken down in this movie. It's, they spend a third of the movie in 2015, probably a third of the movie in alternate 85, and then the last third, and then the last third in 1955 fixing it.
Is it, I might be jumping the gun, but is it, I love this scene.
Yeah, me too. Oh, can you imagine being in anyone in that situation, really? Yeah, this is just, I mean, seeing them, like imagining going into a house thinking that it's your own, and then having it be a house that's not your own, and then like everyone involved in that situation is just in a really bad place.
Yeah, that might make me faint.
yeah, there you go. Me too. So how do you?
That's pretty.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
How do you feel about alternate 1985?
This feels real. This is accurate, I think.
Sad, but yeah.
It's sad but true. This is kind of this 1985. This is Hill Valley, California, and the idea that one man can kind of change this. I don't know that one man could, but I look at this in 1985 and I think, well, that's RoboCop.
Oh, right? Yeah.
That's Detroit.
Huh.
And so this is a it's a very plausible 1985. It's more accurate, I think. It looks more like Detroit 1985 than 2015 looked, California 2015.
Right. It looks a lot like RoboCop Detroit or present day Detroit.
Yeah. Either one.
Yeah.
It looks a little nicer than present day Detroit.
Right. So a running gag through all the movies is Strickland and his hard on for there you go for slackers,
hard on for punctuality.
Yeah, and for people being slackers and it's an interesting kind of through line for that particular character. It's a little funny in the third one because it's kind of a throwaway scene in the third one, but I think it's kind of scary that, in this alternate 1985, students are, trying to kill him.
Yeah. Man, this is a disturbing scene.
It really is. And, yeah, that's
the guy from the bench.
Yeah. I can't remember who he is.
He's just on the bench in the first movie. Crazy drunk drivers.
Right. I thought he was supposed to be like someone like big within the canon of the movie, of the franchise. I can't remember.
I don't think so.
Yeah, and this is kind of bikers in
That's
the
RoboCop.
Yeah, bikers in the 80s, even late 70s, 80s, and in into the 90s. That bikers were kind of big. They were used frequently in movies as kind of nefarious people and atmosphere, tone establishing scenes, like grimy looking kind of environments, I guess.
Mm-hmm. What I like about this second act of the movie is that the first one is very much a retread of the events of the first one. The first act is a retread of the events of the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third act is literally the first movie. He steps into it. Oh, there's
right.
Mad Dog.
Yeah.
But this one it kind of stands on its own. This is more time than we spend in 1985 in either movie.
Yeah, that's true.
Previously.
Yeah, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but we're about to get to one of the more disturbing sequences that I'm not too sure about. With Lorraine.
Yeah.
It's it's a little disturbing.
Yeah, you say not too sure. Do you feel like maybe it doesn't fit, doesn't work, doesn't make sense?
I think that it fits to an extent, but I think that it's just they did a little too much with it. It's a bit too dark. Because she's
it's a bit too dark, and it I mean, obviously it undoes some of the things that happen. It's an alternate reality. That's the whole point. But it also, I feel like it undoes some of the confidence that even Lorraine gains in the first movie.
Mm-hmm. She's kind of like a prisoner.
Oh yeah,
and
for sure.
I think that's what's most unsettling.
Yeah.
But then again, cleavage.
Yeah. When it blacked out there for a second after they hit him on the head, I thought my iPad glitched for a second. I was like, we're going to have to redo this whole thing.
Oh, that would be a disaster.
Boobs. Man, that is a set of heavy prosthetics, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Is she wearing a chest plate? What is going on there? Did she address, she said, did she say this was like her favorite part to play in the entire series? Just because it was her chance to do something different?
Oh, yeah, maybe.
I think she said that.
I think so. But that makes sense. I can see that, but I still just, I don't know. It's just, it feels just wrong to me.
Did you ever watch Caroline in the City?
Oh my God, no, I never did. But that was her show, right?
That was her show. I didn't realize till probably the DVDs came out when I was in high school.
Huh.
That she was Caroline from the City.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. I mean, I never. I mean, that show ran pretty long. So.
That's it. I liked it.
What do you think of Biff as a villain character?
I think he works best in 1955. I think that feels the most real in 1985. And you know what's interesting is we have been talking lately in class about bullying, which I know sounds like an elementary type of thing to talk about, but
Right.
basically one of the things we've concluded is that bullying is now cyberbullying, and there's not a whole lot of shoving dudes around. And but like the stereotypical 1950s bully, that's pretty accurate. I think that's pretty good, but outside of that setting, I think he's over the top and rings a little untrue for me.
Yeah, I agree. And that's interesting that you mentioned that about cyberbullying being kind of the new bullying. Yeah, and this might be a little bit of a tangent, but did you feel like in high school, was that kind of, I feel like in our time, and maybe like your mileage may vary, but like in our time, we were in high school from 2001 to 2005. And it seems like in that time frame, we were kind of in an in-between thing where it wasn't like pushing and shoving kind of bullying, but it was also like kind of the start of like the emotional, like cyberbullying kind of transition, I guess.
That's true. That's true.
So I don't know.
It's a weird thing.
Yeah. But Biff, like you said, Biff's kind of, pushing and physical bullying in 55 fits, but yeah, he loses some fear, like he loses some of his intensity in other timelines because he becomes a little too over the top and cartoonish.
For sure.
Yeah. Also cleavage.
Also, there's cleavage there.
Yeah.
But it's not even good cleavage because she's all like drunk and gross.
Yeah, that's true. And then that also kind of, I guess I'm kind of grasping here, but, I mean, that, it's kind of interesting to see that come into play, her being, all drunk and, the implication being that she's, kind of, an alcoholic and, we know.
She is anyway. In the original 1985.
Right.
You could say that this is 1985C,
Yeah, that's true.
And so in 1985A, she was an alcoholic.
Right.
I always read this, that they killed George McFly as a way to not have him in the movie, like to get around the Crispin Glover issue. But, he's in most of the movie.
Yeah, it's
not most of it, but a lot of it.
It's funny. I kind of saw this as, and this is just purely my interpretation of it, I kind of saw it as kind of a screw you to Crispin Glover.
Oh, yeah. That's definitely how I see it. For sure. Yeah. Agreed.
It feels like a lot of time has passed between Doc and Marty being together. I mean, because they kind of parted ways when they dropped off Jennifer.
Uh-huh.
And then now Marty's just kind of been on his own. And it feels like a long stretch. So it's nice to see them back together.
I've always wondered like how Doc and Marty became the friends that they were.
Yeah. I think a lot of people have. It's kind of weird. Have you watched any of Rick and Morty?
I haven't.
Oh, I just started it like a week ago, and it's like this dynamic, but if Doc was if Doc was an abusive drunk, or like a really if he was like an insane person basically, and if Marty was like just about to be was much younger, and if Doc was his grandfather. It's an interesting show, made by Dan Harmon.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
This Scenes like this are always when I feel like they're explaining it to the people who don't get it right yet.
Right. And seeing the visual representation of, like, did he need to have the chalkboard there to show, like, okay, you had a tangent line, and I like the visual representation of it, but it's also like, it's a little silly.
Yeah.
But,
do you remember the first time you saw this movie?
I do. It's
You do? That's awesome.
Yeah, I remember the first time I saw pieces of it. I remember seeing it on TV, like, when I was fairly young, and I mean, maybe this goes back to why I'm attached to the, like, the MacGuffin device of the almanac, the sports almanac, because I just loved later in the movie when Marty is trying to get it back. He's fumbling through it as Biff is driving away or is driving with it, and I just liked that kind of physical comedy and physical suspense when I saw it on TV. But I believe the first time I ever watched these movies all the way through, I think it was when I blind bought it, like maybe freshman year of high school on DVD.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I was pretty old when I got around to actually seeing it properly. I'd seen bits and pieces, or should I say Biffs and pieces.
Hey.
Yeah. How about you? When was the? Well, I know that you.
Well, like I said, I can't remember the first time, and I really hate that. I wish that I could.
Right.
But I can tell you some significant times that I remember.
Nice.
I definitely remember watching it, like, at home, during the summers, just kind of over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when part 3 came out on VHS, and I watched the second one again right before it to make sure that I was caught up.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember seeing it on TV, like, several years later. Well, what felt like several years later was probably 5 years later. But when you're 11, it feels like several years later.
Right.
And kind of understanding for the first time why it's alternate, and there's Clint Eastwood.
Right.
Understanding why it's alternate, understanding that he's back in the original movie, and it's an interesting kind of thought process and thinking game about, what do kids think about when they watch an early movie. And I definitely didn't think about the fact that he was in the events of the first movie, and that was so cool. So we almost got boobs in this scene.
Yeah. That's a hell of a transition. Yeah, interesting. It's, this was, would this be before PG-13 was a thing?
No, this was just after.
Okay. And was this PG-13?
This is a PG movie.
Really? Interesting. But yeah, almost boobs. Neat.
Yeah. Let me make sure. I'm not so sure that it's PG now.
There was a newspaper in the scene before this that apparently one of the articles was Nixon seeks fifth term, and I thought that's cute.
Yeah, it is PG, by the way.
Oh, nice.
I remember seeing this when the DVD came out. For me, it was a big deal. I remember my friend who lived across the street. He also loved it, and we had kind of seen it on TV a couple times. But like it coming out on DVD was a big deal. And I believe that I got it for Christmas that year.
Oh, nice.
And I remember asking for it. Here's one. Asking for it on full screen. Like wanting to get the full screen version because I hated widescreen.
Right.
And my mom accidentally getting the widescreen version for me. And being like, oh well, whatever.
Yeah. Here's one. When I blind bought the Blu-ray set, it was the collection, obviously. And the way that it had it was the cover was a basic plastic box, and it had the plastic screen, holding in the paper cover.
Did you not have a sleeve on yours?
I did, but
Gotcha.
the way that I got the somehow the sleeve, I think when I tried to put it on the first time after taking it out for the first time, when I put the sleeve back on, it bent the top of the plastic on the back of the case.
Oh.
Yeah, and it bent it so much that it creased, and it bugged the crap out of me so much that I took like an X-Acto knife and I cut the plastic so that it wouldn't catch when I put the sleeve back on, and it always bothered me because it was like it was. I think I might actually still have that collection, but it always bothered me that I had a slightly marred, a less than mint condition Back to the Future DVD collection.
I gave my Back to the Future DVD collection, I think I gave it to my dad.
Nice.
Which I kind of feel stupid about. I shouldn't have done that. But I have the Blu-rays. Who cares?
Yeah. Are you going to get the special 30th edition, 30th anniversary Blu-ray?
Oh, no. I have to draw the line some places.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I have to. I will buy every copy of Star Wars that ever comes out. I'll be that guy. But man, I don't have to buy every single copy of Back to the Future.
That's understandable. I want it just to have the complete collection, because as stupid as this sounds, I kind of want it to, because I want to have the cartoon.
Oh yeah.
Oddly enough,
did you ever watch it? Do you remember it?
Vague memories, like incredibly vague memories.
I'm the same.
But I do remember seeing it.
I remember the McDonald's toys more than anything. McDonald's or Burger King toys more than anything, more than the show itself. I
go ahead.
love this scene so much.
Really?
I mean, this multiple times used to give me chills when he would right here. Well, I'll shut up for a second so you can watch. Biff's face. Twitching.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. It's my favorite scene. I love it.
I can see it. Yeah. He turns from kind of a cartoon villain in the alternate 1985 to kind of a really, like, it takes such a dark turn. I mean, he admitted to murdering George.
Yep. And I love this. The brief return to the theme. Mm-hmm. We got to go back to 1955. I don't believe it.
Yeah, maybe I'm a little hard on the animation of the flying of the hover.
It's pretty good. I was just thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, that first scene in the beginning of the movie is a little rough, but everything else has been really solid in terms of the special effects. Seeing this on Blu-ray is just really beautiful. It's a really, really good looking transfer and everything.
So this is coming to theaters, or this, I guess, will be in theaters today.
Mm-hmm.
And I am chaperoning a field trip, and so they're playing Back to the Future Part 2. I think it starts at 7, and I'm not sure I'll be able to make it. I'm kind of kicking myself about it.
Yeah, here in Indianapolis, they're having a double feature at the Indiana Museum of Art, their amphitheater.
Yeah.
And I want to go to it, but it's also during Heartland Film Festival, and I have plans for that.
Gotcha.
So,
damn the luck.
Yeah. There will be other times. It's, Keystone Art plays it a lot. Yeah. For their Midnight Madness here in Indianapolis.
It's just too much. It's too much to do.
Yeah. And I think that I don't know. I'll probably end up watching it again on, when it on the date, just for the novelty of having it in my notes. But it's a movie I can watch whenever, really.
Yeah. Yeah, now that I have it on my iPad, I might bring it on the trip with me.
Nice.
It's a long drive up to Indy. I'll be in Indy, by the way.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Would you have time to hang out?
No, I'll have students.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, they can learn all about the podcast.
They can, but if you wanted to come out and watch The Great Gatsby with us at the something, that'll be happening.
Oh, well, that's cool. I'll have Heartland. Yeah. Busy week. So this scene, and it was similar in the exposition dump scene in alternate 1985, but they do the classic Marty running in opposite directions to kind of give the impression that Doc was a lot taller than Marty. It's something that they did in the first one.
Yes.
And it's nice to see that kind of come back.
Speaking of exposition dump, these movies are so exposition heavy. And I think what works so well is that it doesn't feel like it.
Yeah, oh, totally. It's the scripts are so tight. I'm so enthralled by the amount of setups and payoffs in it. I mean, there's a special feature on the Blu-rays that shows you.
Really quick. Look at what Biff is wearing right now. I wore that outfit last weekend. Right? I mean, you could see that guy dressed like that.
Totally.
Today.
Huh. Yeah, that's such a good point. I mean, there's not really much else you can say about it. Maybe fashion is cyclical a little bit, but it's insane. Yeah. I mean, and it's so uniquely 1950s in this movie too, that it's, I don't know. I think maybe that's just a universal fashion or timeless fashion.
When you hear Mr. Sandman, do you think of these movies or do you think of Halloween 2?
Halloween 2.
Yeah.
Me
too.
You sound a little disappointed by that.
I am, because I'm, I don't know, it's a happy song and I'm a little more tied to Back to the Future than I am to Halloween.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's kind of, you can almost be angry at Halloween 2 for marring this happy song, and that's part of the reason why they did it.
Right.
It was brilliant, really, but I don't know.
This always, I think, when I was a kid, so let's do that again. This was always a little jarring to me, and I didn't really say, oh, that's the 1955 he went to in the past, because it's kind of a different angle on Hill Valley.
It is, yeah.
Right? It's like a different side of the street.
Yeah, it looks like it's, yeah, it doesn't have the, in movies that mimic angles and mimic shots from previous entries in the franchise, to have it go so much to such an extreme where it's not mimicking something that they've already done, it's kind of jarring, even though it's in a time span that they did. Maybe that's on purpose, that they purposely didn't recreate shots because they already did it in the first one.
Right.
And that's this is more of a thing on the first one, but Biff's fascination with Lorraine is really, really unsettling.
Stalker, creepy, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Rapey,
yeah.
Yeah. It's disturbing.
Yep.
But to your point, it fits the villain of the 50s for him.
Yeah, like I said, I totally believe this guy is a villain. As a villain.
Oh yeah. And he's just fantastic in that role too.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I always, like, as a kid when I saw this, I always thought, like, on one hand, I think I always wanted to think, like, oh, I would love to have, like, a connection to my own car that like only I can start it, and then Yeah, it's something just dumb like that. But
that means your car is broken.
Exactly. Yeah, and like that was my next thing, was that nowadays it's like, oh, okay, I need to spend money.
Yeah, exactly.
So I hope I don't have that.
When I was a kid, I always felt like this scene was so long. He's got to wait in this garage for so long.
Yeah.
Ah.
Every major sports event. See, there's not enough space.
Well, major sports event, like, does that mean the winners, there is only 30 World Series winners.
Yeah. Major sports events like championships and stuff like that I could buy that, but I mean, later in the movie when they're in their car, they're going through college football scores on the radio.
That is true.
Yeah. Back to the Future Part 2 held the record for the largest 5-day Thanksgiving weekend opening ever at $43 million.
Huh.
It was unseated by 101 Dalmatians 7 years later. Nice little tidbit of trivia. Yeah, in there, they just pull up a random college game.
Is it random, though, or is it a bowl game?
I have no idea. It would be back in November 1955. Do they have bowls in 1955 or in November?
Usually December-ish, January.
I thought so.
January mostly.
Yeah. I would love to have that prop, though. I would love to have that on my bookcase.
Yeah. Oh, I'd like a replica.
You mean
of it? I mean, I would like to just have a replica of that, just for fun.
Oh, right, yeah.
Or is that what you meant?
That's what I meant, yeah.
Oh. I thought you meant that actual prop.
Oh, no. Oh, man, that would be so expensive. I wonder if...
$30? You think like 30 bucks?
Sure. I wonder if it's at, where it is, like who has it now, like if it's at, like, Planet Hollywood or something. Or a Hard Rock Cafe or something like that.
Do you like Marty's inconspicuous outfit?
I do.
How did he pick this? What's the reference there?
I don't know. I think he's going for like a 50s noir detective.
Noir, private dick kind of thing?
Yeah. One thing that I always loved was the way that the way the doc is holding the walkie-talkie. He's like has it pressed to his cheek, and like the antenna is getting bent and everything. I love the frenetic energy that they bring to just talking into the walkie-talkies. It's like that in the physicality of handling the sports almanac. There are little flourishes to the acting in these scenes, like these little physical touches to him that really.
The fact that it's rolled up in his back pocket just feels so substantial or something.
Yeah,
you know?
Totally. It's something you don't. I don't know. I connect to it so much, and just the physicality of it.
Is this a really nice car? If you were a car guy, would you be like, "Oh, that car"?
Biff's car?
Biff's car.
Yeah. Yeah, probably. I mean, classic car, nice paint job. History with
nice paint job. So you're telling me you have no idea?
I have no clue at all. But it does have a history and future with manure, so that lowers it a little bit.
I love this.
Yeah.
That's basically what this commentary is. I just go, I love this.
Right. That's really any commentary track, though.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Oh, I look really good in this scene.
This shoot was long. I don't know.
They talk about people you don't know.
Right. I do like a good commentary track, though. I need to listen to more.
By the way, pause for station identification. You're listening to The Obsessive Viewer with Matt and Tiny, featuring Mike in a returning.
Right.
I don't know however you want to say that.
Have you listened to the podcast at all lately?
No. In fact, I have listened to no podcasts lately.
Wow.
On the drive to and from work, I've been listening to audiobooks for class just to get through those. Yeah.
Well, that's smart.
Yeah.
It's
smart, but it's not super fun.
I can see that. Yeah. It seems like every single episode I'm saying, like, if I reference you in any way, it's like, oh yeah, Mike said that, and then I'd be like, Mike is our co-host who's on sabbatical from the podcast. Like every single time.
Yeah. They know.
Yep.
Thank you guys for listening. It's good to be here talking to you guys.
Oh yeah. Wait, are you thanking the listeners for listening, or thanking
the listeners?
Yes. Thank you, listeners. That's another thing. After you left the podcast, that I just never thank the listeners. I never consider the listeners. So Doc Brown and Doc Brown.
Yeah.
This scene I thought was very charming. I kind of love this scientific bond between the two. Like, one has no idea who the other is, but I like that dynamic. I think it's a sweet scene.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I love just the obvious, costume choices and things that they do just to make sure that you know which is which.
Yeah. I love that he keeps forgetting it too.
Yeah.
Biff is the worst with it. That the jazz music that plays in the at the dance, that I identify so much with Back to the Future.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I think I'm see, that is a shot from the first Back to the Future.
Right.
But when we cut to it and it's not through the thing, through the glasses, that is Jeffrey Wiseman in prosthetics.
And I think that might also be a big reason why he got litigious with it, because they actually used footage that he shot.
Uh-huh. I love that it's perfect the same size.
Yeah. So
very
is
convenient.
Is it like porn, or is it?
I think it's a porno.
Okay.
Yeah.
50s porn.
50s porn.
Yeah.
Speaking of 50s porn, did you hear about Playboy?
I did.
That's crazy.
It is crazy, and it's funny because I'm surprised that it's 2015 and they haven't. Like, this is, for context, they just announced that they are dropping nude pictures from the magazine. I'm surprised that they waited this long, because it goes back to another thing with, like, us being in high school at the time that we were in high school, and our adolescence at the time that we were adolescents. Kind of an in-between thing, porn magazines were on the way out, and now it's, decade or so later, and they're really almost non-existent in the cultural consciousness.
Yeah.
From what I understand, I don't know. I'm a wholesome person. I don't patronize pornography.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Although I did see a banner about some hot singles in my area, though, on a website. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
what website was that again?
I'll tell you off the air, but when I clicked it,
Gotcha.
my computer just exploded, basically.
Yeah. Been there.
Right. Yeah, Strickland is, he's okay.
Still there. Do you still, after several viewings of this movie, feel the tension every time he goes up to grab the magazine? It doesn't happen
All the time.
You still do?
I do. Oh yeah. Definitely still there. Yeah, Strickland's just kind of one note throughout.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
I do like that tie, though.
Oh, yeah. Sharp dresser, that Strickland.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, his onesie, pajama onesie that he had in the
Right.
alternate 1985.
Can you imagine being in Marty's position right here? He's not only... there's something to be said about his psychiatric well-being in that scene where he passes by the car, because he's reliving, like, he's forcing to relive or spectate briefly a scene that is going to scar him, that is already and must scar him from the first movie.
Yeah.
So I think that's just an interesting bit of trauma to add to this experience for Marty.
So people play a lot with the theories of time travel in this movie. Usually they stick with the first one, and one of the possibilities is kind of a multiverse thing. Like every time he time travels, sorry, I guess I should say, just for clarity, every instance in which he time travels, he creates a new alternate universe. So essentially, the Marty McFly that we meet in the beginning of the movie never returns to his timeline. So there is a universe that exists without an original Marty McFly, and his parents are just upset, right?
Right.
But we know now that if the time machine brings him back to the very same 1955 that the old version of him attended before, then obviously that can't be the case. Otherwise, why would he have gone back to that specific 1985 or 1955? Does that make sense?
Right. Like, so are you saying that he never goes back to the same 1955? Wait, that's not what you're saying.
Well, that's a possibility of the first one, but now he does go to the same.
Right. It's a little inconsistent.
It's inconsistent if that's what you believed in the first one, but there's no defining, there's no rule book to the time travel in these movies.
Yeah, that's true.
There are, of course, suggestions, but until I thought hard about the second one, I always thought, and I always made the joke, that the original Marty went back in time, and left that universe, that plane of existence, right? And just, we'll say that the time machine even created a new one, right? Created a new timeline. That old timeline still exists. And so, by the way, this is Jeffrey Wiseman in the background. So he's in original 1955, or he's in original 1985, excuse me. It's getting late. He travels to 1955, but a different 1955, one that is similar to the one that originally happened, but is different. So he affects it, and then he goes to the future, but he could be then again creating yet another future, or going to that 1955's future.
Right.
Right? Except that if we get to this one and he has gone back into the past and there is a Marty there, you kind of think it'd have to be the same timeline, right?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's mind-boggling. It's so confusing. It's I don't know. It's a weird brain exercise. I don't know how else to really play off of it. It's just, it's weird. Like, when you think of that, like, them going back to fix alternate 1985 and then leaving Jennifer there, like they say, like, it'll change around her and everything. But, I mean, you could sort of think of it as her dying there.
Yeah.
I love this guy.
Yeah. What else is he in? I mean, he's kind of a character actor.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever really seen him in anything, but I just love the repetition of him saying, I think he took his wallet. I don't know, something about it just, I just get a kick out of it every time. We haven't talked about Billy Zane.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we don't really need to, but
we can.
I kind of wish there was a little more with the DeLorean in this one.
Why is that?
Just, the first movie kind of ends with, them showing like, the hover, hovering and everything, but you don't really see the DeLorean do much of anything else except for fly around.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nitpicking at best, but I mean, it's such an icon of the first movie that I kind of wish it was a little bit more integral to the plot, I guess. But we'll get that in the third one, so. The way I think that was Billy Zane that did how did he change his clothes so fast? Like the way he delivers that.
I think it was 3D. Was the one who said that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, whichever one it was, but I like the delivery of that.
How did he change his clothes so fast?
Again, Doc
I love
with
this.
the.
Go ahead.
I was just going to comment on Doc with the walkie-talkie.
Yeah. I love that the tension is back.
Oh yeah,
it's the same thing. It's the same. That's the same climax here, and it's still intense. I just love it.
And that's really what that's probably one of the biggest things that I connect to with this franchise is that each movie kind of takes the. I think he took his wallet, but it takes such a careful look at the drama of it or the suspense of it, and it kind of each movie has its climax where the stakes are just ridiculously high, and the tension mounts in such a satisfying way. Like it's really. By my count, probably perfect tension building and execution of that and suspense in it. It's just so beautifully constructed in each movie, and things keep going wrong so often, and I love it because it doesn't seem like it doesn't seem cheap or gimmicky or anything. It's like it's just things keep going wrong, and just generally it seems organic.
Yeah.
I love it.
You could say that this movie is similar to Empire Strikes Back in that it is the second installment of a trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
In that it is darker, notably darker.
Mm-hmm.
It ends on a down note, much the way Empire Strikes Back does. So someone who I think identifies more with the Back to the Future trilogy than the original Star Wars trilogy.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have a preference?
Over Back to the Future Part 2?
And Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, Back to the Future Part 2.
For sure?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I do have a stronger preference for the Back to the Future trilogy than I do the original Star Wars trilogy. That's just... I just connect to it more, really.
Yeah.
And I prefer, I prefer Back to the Future Part 2 over Empire Strikes Back. I'll go on record and say that.
Interesting.
Yeah. You being this might be a dumb question, but I'll throw it back at you. Empire or Back to the Future Part 2?
Oh, 1,000 times Empire, for sure. Yeah. Like I said early on, I think there is so much to like about this movie, but just the premise of the whole thing kind of takes it down several pegs, and I think that in a lot of ways Empire is an improvement over Star Wars. So
sure,
there's that.
Yeah. It is interesting that is an interesting parallel that you draw between Back to the Future Part 2 and Empire.
Yeah.
Kind of just second installments in general kind of seem kind of prone to that type of narrative structure, I guess, or those certain beats that are common between these two movies.
Right.
I mean, it's effective.
There's Jeffrey Wiseman again.
And we get another chicken line.
Yeah, this is the third time?
I believe so. Yeah.
Was it Needles was the other one? Calls him a chicken?
Yeah, I just love that resolution of that scene. But, yeah, I don't remember the first ones.
The composition of that shot is interesting. The framing, the way original Marty, old Marty goes kind of off to the left, and then Biff follows him, but then comes back. But the camera does a little weird pan, but kind of stops with the door in the middle.
Right.
And I think the reason I pointed out is because if I remember correctly, it's a weird pan and scan moment on full screen.
Oh, okay, I can see that.
I mean, of course, the first several times I saw this movie was full screen,
right,
with cut and splice, pan and scan stuff. Yeah. So I still remember a lot of that stuff.
And it's funny, like the door kind of sticking in the middle of the frame like that. I mean, it's clear because it's compositing both Michael J. Fox's performances on the screen at once, right. But I do like the framing of that, even if it's strictly for that.
Yeah.
Here we come to one of my favorite parts of the entire movie, though, the suspense of Marty with the hoverboard trying to get the sports almanac. Something about it, it's like you don't need like a proper chase sequence, but this is when you have something like this, because this is just as suspenseful as anything else. Like the stakes have been established, and we know what Biff's capable of and what he's going to be capable of. So it's imperative that they get the sports almanac. It's just, I don't know. I love the suspense of this entire sequence. And
yeah, I don't like the decision to kill Marty though in this scene.
Kill Marty? What?
I don't know. Just being silly.
Yeah, I don't condone the reading while driving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He would be a texter and driver.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now he believes.
Marty kind of has kind of a non-violent approach to Biff in general.
Yeah.
Because you would think that they would just, I mean, there's two of them. There's Marty and Doc. Why not just, distract them somehow?
Knock them out.
Yeah. But it's a family movie.
Yep. Very little violence. In fact, I think they've wiped the blood off of his nose and face.
Oh, yeah. It's also got cleavage.
Yep. I'm not a big technical kind of guy, but when you're doing a commentary, it kind of asks you to do that kind of work. Now maybe it's still a little there.
It looks like it's been wiped off, and maybe that's maybe a continuity
Is Biff
error.
Homicidal?
A little bit, yeah. A little bit, because I don't know if he ever really wants to kill Marty.
I mean, that definitely could have killed him.
It could have, but I don't know.
I love this.
Oh yeah, that's so great. And I love that the manure truck.
That theme.
Yeah, go ahead.
The theme, you know, when he flips over the car.
Oh yeah,
and
the like
plays
triumphant
the original theme. Yeah, it's so. Thank you. That's the word. It is triumphant.
Oh yeah.
I love. Obviously, I love Star Wars, and I love the score in there, and I point to that as one of my favorites. But I really don't know if there's one that gives me chills at the opportune moments more than the main title theme from Back to the Future.
Absolutely.
And just the way they drop it in, it's so triumphant.
Oh yeah, I was going to comment on it, and it's funny because the way that I'm watching it right now is I have the sound off and I have subtitles enabled and everything, but I can hear it. Like, I can hear it as clear as day in my head when that scene happens at the exact cue.
Yep.
It's so perfect. And I love that the manure truck is a callback to the same company. It's D. Jones, which I think is a reference to a crew member. I'm not sure, though. How did you feel about the "I hate manure" kind of catchphrase thing?
It's in his mouth. It's another. Does he actually say "I hate manure" in the first one?
That's a good question. I feel like he did, but maybe I'm just thinking of this one.
Yeah, we might be projecting again.
Yeah. I feel like that line in this one's pretty iconic, though.
Yeah.
This scene.
Yeah. I love every line delivery that Christopher Lloyd makes.
Oh yeah.
In the entire series.
Mm-hmm.
Every delivery.
He's magnificent.
Yeah.
I like the lighting effects and everything of the storm and the lightning and everything. How do you feel about the end of the first movie when Biff becomes kind of the auto detailing guy and he's employed?
The castration.
Yeah, not even so much that, just the fact that George and Lorraine would hire him to detail their car when, you know, he assaulted her in high school. Like you would think that kind of history would breed a lot of bad blood and maybe not be the most conducive to forgiveness years later.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that feels really like what's the word? Almost inbred. You know, it's so self-contained and what is the word I want to use? Maybe incestuous. Just that it takes place in California and it takes place over the span of 60 years. Yet, all of these things keep happening to these small people. Like, you know, you asking why would the guy who was the bully be the guy who detailed their car? That just seems so convenient. It seems so. It feels constrained to a movie set. Right.
And I mean, Hill Valley is a small community, it seems. So
That's true.
So I guess it makes sense, but
it makes sense. And you know, that said, I don't know. It's fun, I guess.
Yeah.
The hearing Crispin Glover's argument about the end of the first one, I I mean, Crispin Glover is so wacky, and
Right.
he's so bothersome to me in so many ways. But I see a lot of his point. I see a lot of what he's trying to say.
Yeah, I can
about how money.
Yeah,
money
materialistic.
kind of makes you materialistic, and George is kind of a dick by the end of it. Why would he give a taste of your own medicine kind of thing? I don't know. I can see why that would be bothersome.
Yeah, totally. I can totally see his point. This ending is so good. I love it so much.
Me too.
Yeah, and the way that this guy delivers his lines is he's so adversarial.
Yeah. Well, it looks like Marty being conspicuous.
Yeah. I just love the kind of not campy but kind of noir-esque like I got something for you.
Yeah. I love the idea that this envelope has been sitting there for 70 years.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's brilliant. That is brilliant. Thinking about this, especially even when I was little and kind of toyed around with the thought of time travel in my head, this is the one that really flew me for a loop, and really, like, I understood the idea of Doc leaving something and it being 70 years for him, but strange and instant for Marty. I just love that idea.
Right.
It's like in Bill and Ted where they leave the keys for themselves.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Something that just blew my mind here. First time ever noticing this or realizing this. The guy who delivers it is Joe Flaherty. I can't pronounce that crap. Flaherty. What's that?
Flaherty.
Flaherty. There you go. He's the dad in the Freaks and Geeks, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that blows my mind, and he's in a lot of stuff. But yeah, I don't know why I never connected that. Seeing this emulated in an episode of Family Guy makes me wish that they would do a parody of the entire trilogy like they did with Star Wars.
Yeah. And this is just to say, they're back in the climax. It's just to say, hey, remember this? It was awesome.
Right.
Hey, you loved this.
This feint coming up, I can buy. I can buy Doc fainting at this scenario.
Yeah. So he goes into that movie theater, that is playing The Atomic Kid. By the way.
I like that. That's a nice touch.
It worked. 88 miles per hour.
Well done, Doc.
I love the effect of the fire on the ground.
Me too. Oh, it's so great. And the shock of finding him, of him being back.
What a bummer.
Yeah. Put him back from the future.
I'm back from the future. Oh, that gives me chills.
Me too. Such a great movie.
Yep.
To be concluded. Man. I love this movie. Yep. How do you feel about the little tacked on teaser for part 3?
I don't like it. I don't like the teaser.
Yeah.
It's a weird... It seems a little too TV.
Mm-hmm.
I think it shows a little too much. I mean, of course, there would have been trailers that would have come out, and we know that Marty and Doc are going to meet back up, but it's odd. It's odd. It's weird.
For a movie that, the Back to the Future Part 2 is also, it spoils the ending. Oh my God.
Yeah.
But, well, I mean, it's whatever, but, for a movie that, with Back to the Future Part 2, with a movie that has, 3 distinct parts and time periods and everything, cutting to, a sequence of Old West, them in the Old West and everything is a little jarring as well, because you just have, you just have a little, it's a little excessive, in terms of different eras, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you rank, let's not rank them because obviously first is the best, but which do you like better, 2 or 3?
2, without a doubt.
Really?
Yeah.
For the longest time, I agreed with you. And even before I knew you, I agreed with you. But I love the way 3 ties everything up. And I've also, I think since playing Red Dead Redemption, I've grown like this new affinity for the West.
I can see that. I can respect that for sure. As a standalone movie, I think the third one is very, very good. But I think it's also the not least connected, but it's the most jarring movie. Because it's so aesthetically different.
And I think that's what I like. It's very different. It stays there the whole time. It doesn't go through the same beats that we've seen before. It feels different. It feels with a purpose, and I like that.
Sure. Okay. I mean, there's still a lot of genuine a lot of callbacks to it too. So throughout it, but you're right. It does kind of strike a different sequence of events. I guess it does differentiate itself in a franchise that's so built around callbacks and inside references.
Yep.
Yeah. Anything else we should wrap up for this commentary? I feel like we should. Well, we already ranked them, so.
Yeah, we ranked them. We talked about how it felt to see 2015 on screen, which I still think is just so cool. There's not another movie I can think of where there's a date that far into the future that gives us an actual date that we can say, on this day, this is the depiction of this day. It's just a cool idea.
Oh, absolutely. I'm glad that we got to do this.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it was kind of just a not last minute thing, but just kind of I had a bunch of ideas for Back to the Future, something to celebrate it, but this just kind of came up out of nowhere. So I'm glad we did it.
I dig it. Good plan.
Oh yeah. And then we'll have to do
wrap it up.
Yeah. We'll have to do more commentaries. Then you'll have to come back full time.
Yeah. Well, for sure. I'd love to do some commentaries.
Nice.
And I'll be back eventually.
Right. I'm still holding you to that for sure.
I know.
Yeah. All right. Well, so thanks for listening to this commentary track of Back to the Future Part 2 in honor of Back to the Future Day. Anything, Chris McGlover was credited.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah. But anyway, this has been a special presentation of the Obsessive Viewer podcast, which is a weekly movie and TV podcast that covers a specific topic, whether it's a genre, trope, movie, or show. You can find more of our work at ovpodcast.com and also find the blog at obsessiveviewer.com. And also there's a subreddit at r/obsessiveviewer. Anything else?
Not that I can think of.
Cool.
I'll be back on for one of these. Thank you guys for listening.
Yeah. thanks for listening, guys, and let us know what you think.